Hello, I'm Jake, Mr. Jake, and I'd like to recommend a movie. After covering 3 French movies in a row, I guess it's about time to leave the land of the croissants behind and do something different. So, here's a Japanese movie for you. It is called 13 Assassins, or, as I like to call it, 12 Ned Starks and a Rogue Hunter versus Caligula in Japan. Normally, I start by explaining who the hero and the villain are in the movie, but this time I'm in trouble because I don't really know which is which. The story, in a nutshell, is that Caligula is resurrected in Japan and 13 people decide to kill him. In more detail, we are in Shogun-era Japan, ruled by a guy whose brother, a Lord Naritsugu, is a sadistic bastard who rapes and murders and pillages his own people as he pleases. One of the government officials realizes that if the shogun were to die, then Naritsugu would become unstoppable and Japan would be thrust into an age of bloodthirsty war. Not wanting to see his country turn into the Seven Kingdoms from Game of Thrones, he decides to hire Shinzaemon, a retired hitman, that is, a retired samurai, to kill Naritsugu before things get out of hand. Shinzaemon then gathers 11 more samurai, basically forming the Samurai Dirty Dozen, and eventually a rogue hunter, and the 13 of them try killing Naritsugu. So, Shinzaemon is pretty much built as the protagonist of this movie, but it's not so easy to look at him as the hero. After all, he is about to murder the Emperor's brother. That's high treason. That's even bigger treason than turning against Stannis Baratheon, the rightful heir in Game of Thrones. Except that Stannis is a great guy, whereas on the other side we have Naritsugu, who has a habit of killing his underlings just for the hell of it, not providing any justifiable explanation. At one point, we see him decapitate someone, proving about as efficient at the job as Theon Greyjoy, except Theon is a likable character whereas Naritsugu is not. We also see the gruesome result of his handiwork in a severely mutilated woman whose entire village was massacred by Naritsugu. This is what I mean when I say that he is pretty much the Japanese Caligula. The fact that he treats women so badly makes it impossible for me to root for him, brother of the shogun or no. Then there's this recurring theme throughout the movie about what's honorable. Excluding Naritsugu, who is just plain a psychopath, and the rogue hunter, who is a rogue hunter, everybody in the movie tries to justify siding with either Shinzaemon or Naritsugu based on honor. It's honor this and honor that throughout the entire movie. Every verbal confrontation is like watching Ned Stark argue with another Ned Stark. Naritsugu's men argue that they are sworn to protect and serve the Emperor's brother, and therefore it would bring them dishonor not to protect him even if he is an asshole. While Shinzaemon and his entourage argue that killing a sick psychopath like Naritsugu serves the people of Japan because it stops him from tormenting more innocent people. And hence the murder is in fact the honorable thing to do. Then it's up to the viewers to take their pick and decide which killer's argument they can accept. So I find it very hard to get behind any of the characters in this movie. Sure, the rogue hunter is more likable than anybody else, but he's basically just there for comic relief and does not have a lot of screen time. The movie is mostly about the conflict between the assassins and the Japanese Caligula's bodyguards. There's just too much honor in this movie for my liking. Why am I recommending it then? Because of the cinematography, of course. The cinematography during the second half of the movie, to be exact, the cinematography during the second hour is just as beautiful as during the last 15 minutes of Kill Bill Volume 1. This movie could easily have been Kill Bill Volume 3 if it had been directed by Quentin Tarantino. The carnage, the mayhem, the brutality, the rolling heads, the sheer joy of watching hundreds of people die in horrible, beautiful agony. That is the beauty of the shots, the magnificence of the scenery, the composition in each take, the stark contrast between the lush, vivid green of the forest and the crimson red of the blood that slowly drowns the ground covered in mutilated corpses. You know, I think I should probably explain this in a little more detail before you think that it's an exploitation film. The first half of the movie is build-up. The conflict is established, the characters are introduced, Shin-Zaemon gathers his men including former students, his gambling addict brother, and some nameless blade father. Then he comes up with a plan and sets up a trap in a village for Naritsugu and his bodyguards, led by Shin-Zaemon's old rival, which adds emotional tension to the situation for the both of them. Then, as the first hour ends, Naritsugu and his 200 bodyguards walk into the village and the 13 assassins lock the doors on them and the battle begins. The following is an hour of bloody carnage and mayhem which perfectly expresses the difficult nature of the assassin's task. Being severely outnumbered against their foe is like a metaphor for the insurmountable odds that the class system of Shogun-era Japan inflicted upon small folk, putting them at the mercy of the sick and ruthless upper class. Which is exactly why it's so satisfying to watch the 13 assassins kill them in one of the longest and most brutal bloodbaths ever captured on film. Artsy, yet entertaining. This is how you make an art movie fun to watch. Seriously, go watch this film. You'll like it, trust me. If you're a Kill Bill fan, that's why. If you're an art house fan, that's why. If you're a Caligula fan, that's why. If you're a Game of Thrones fan, that's why. If you like Japanese history, then that's why. Go watch it right now. Just don't expect it to be a good tutorial for assassins. Believe me, this is not how hitmen operate. Seriously, who the hell tries to kill someone with no escape plan? Even Mr. Poor Escape Plan himself, Jocelyn Beaumont, did a better job than these guys. Not that I would know how it's supposed to be done. I'm no hitman after all, retired or otherwise. I just watch Game of Thrones. And so should you.